grant this, will the rest of this follow? 5. We don't have an adequate explanation for physics. Now that's well known. Obviously there is no Darwinism for the physics. 6. We should not give up the hope of a better explanation arising in physics, something as powerful as Darwinism is for biology. So that's just a future that Dawkins is hoping for, that he can then infer from that the conclusion. Therefore, God almost certainly does not exist. Okay, so those 6 premises lead to that conclusion. That is the central argument. Now, even though the God Delusion is a book which is quite thick, it has loads and loads of information about how religion is evil, different things about Islam, different things about Christianity, things about his own sort of ideas, the fundamental point in the book is this. Now the problem when you publish a book like that, making such categorical statements, there are going to be these creatures that are going to come out and start whispering and refuting you. And these creatures are known as philosophers. So one of the most famous philosophers in the world, one of the most important Darwinians of the world, I'm saying of the world, I'm talking in present tense, but he actually was the most important Darwinian. He actually passed away just a few weeks ago. So he was an immensely important figure. He was an atheist, he was a Darwinist, he was a philosopher of biology. So if you were to go down to the Bull Ring, whatever it's called, the town centre, go down to a bookshop and buy a book on the Handbook for the Philosophy of Biology published by Oxford University, it would be edited by him. If you are to look for a whole bunch of publications in the biological sphere, you will have to go through someone like him. Now, what does he say? He says, the God delusion makes me embarrassed to be an atheist. Right? So, this was one of the first critiques that came out of the God delusion. Now, there are many people who criticize the God delusion, and Ruse is just one of them. Why I want you to highlight this statement is because it goes to show you 2 people, Richard Dawkins and Michael Ruse. Both of them are naturalists. They only believe in nature. Both of them are Darwinists. Both of them are atheists. But here Dawkins is saying God almost certainly doesn't exist, and Ruse is saying this book makes me embarrassed to be an atheist. And in fact, in an interview, when I asked him about this, about his sort of going back and forth with Dawkins, he said, well, Dawkins' God delusion, if you were to give it as a submission in a university in your first year, it would fail. That's how badly he rated that argument. Now, what I want to explain is the hatred that they had for each other's, maybe hatred's a strong word, the sort of animosity, intellectual animosity, we could say, that they had is something which goes back to the God delusion itself, because in the God delusion, the first salvo, if you like, was fired by Dawkins himself, because Dawkins actually refers to Michael Ruse in the God delusion, and he likens him to this very famous British Prime Minister, right? Neville Chamberlain. Now, Neville Chamberlain, for any of you who have studied, World War II, how it began, he's a very divisive figure. There's a lot of interpretations about why he did what he did. But anyway, what Ruse says is this. Richard Dawkins in the God Delusion likened me to Neville Chamberlain, the pusillanimous appeaser at Munich, and advised any reporter to check with others after they have interviewed me, right? So Ruse took exception to that. He obviously picked up on the sort of rhetoric that Dawkins had against him. And there's a famous picture of Neville Chamberlain after he met Hitler and they had a peace deal. Then he came back, he got off the plane, he waved a paper that had Hitler's signature. This is like 1939, I believe, or just thereabouts. And what happens? Hitler goes against the agreement and World War II begins. Neville Chamberlain is remembered as an appeaser, as basically, according to some, a sellout, and somebody who couldn't see it coming, that Hitler and his army and the Third Reich is something you cannot reason with. Therefore, his example is quite powerful when you link it to Michael Ruse, because what is Richard Dawkins saying? He's basically saying Michael Ruse is a Neville Chamberlain to religion, to God. He's somebody who's appeasing to the other side. And that's something that Ruse certainly isn't. He's actually argued against intelligent design, argued in debates against the existence of God, and he was an ardent atheist.